You've built a life with someone who loves you, supports you, and believes in you. But deep down, you feel an ache, a restlessness that whispers there's more. And then one bad decision later, everything falls apart. Why does this happen? Why do men cheat even when they have a good woman? Ladies and gentlemen, today we're diving into one of the most painful yet critical questions about relationships. This isn't just about blame or excuses. It's about understanding the deeper forces at play. Cheating doesn't happen because someone is inherently evil. It happens because unresolved issues within us drive destructive behavior. So let's uncover these truths together so we can build stronger, more meaningful connections. Let's talk about stagnation, a silent killer in relationships and in life itself. Men are biologically and psychologically wired for growth, challenge, and forward momentum. Think about it. From the time we're young boys, society conditions us to strive, compete, and achieve. We're told that success is tied to action, progress, and conquering new horizons. But what happens when life feels like it's standing still? When the days blur together and there's no sense of movement or purpose? That's where the danger lies. Stagnation isn't just boredom. It's a deep existential ache. It's the feeling that you're not becoming who you were meant to be. Even if a man has a good woman by his side, someone who loves him unconditionally, supports his dreams, and creates a stable home, he can still fall prey to this gnawing emptiness. Why? Because stability alone doesn't fulfill the human need for growth. Stability without growth becomes complacency, and complacency breeds dissatisfaction. Now, let me make something crystal clear. This isn't the woman's fault. A partner cannot and should not be solely responsible for another person's personal development. Growth is an individual responsibility. But here's the problem. Many men don't realize this until it's too late. Instead of looking inward and asking themselves, what am I doing to grow? How am I contributing to this relationship? They start looking outward. They convince themselves that the grass might be greener somewhere else, that someone new will bring back the excitement they've lost. But here's the brutal irony. Cheating doesn't solve the problem of stagnation. It amplifies it. Sure, the initial thrill of pursuing someone new might feel exhilarating, but it's hollow. It's a temporary distraction from the real issue, the lack of internal drive and direction. And once the novelty wears off, guess what? The same emptiness returns, except now it's compounded by guilt, shame, and broken trust. So how do we combat this fear of stagnation? First, men must take ownership of their own growth. Whether it's through career advancement, learning new skills, improving physical health, or deepening emotional intelligence, every man needs a mission, a reason to wake up each day with purpose. Second, couples need to prioritize shared growth within the relationship. This could mean setting goals together, exploring new hobbies as a team, or simply having deeper conversations that reignite curiosity and connection. Remember, a relationship should never be a cage. It should be a launch pad. A good woman wants to see her man soar. She believes in his potential even when he doubts himself. But she can't carry him. He has to choose to rise. And when he does, when he commits to becoming the best version of himself, the fear of stagnation fades away. What takes its place is fulfillment, passion, and a partnership built on mutual respect and admiration. Don't let stagnation rob you of the life you were meant to live. Choose growth, choose purpose, choose the woman who stood by you when you needed her most. Because at the end of the day, true strength isn't found in chasing fleeting highs. It's found in building something lasting, meaningful, and extraordinary. Let's delve into one of the most profound and often overlooked reasons why men cheat even when they're with a good woman. Unresolved inner conflict. This isn't just about surface level dissatisfaction or fleeting temptation. It's about the deep, unspoken wounds that many men carry within them. These wounds don't always show up in obvious ways. They fester beneath the surface, quietly shaping behavior, decisions, and ultimately relationships. Think about it. Every man carries baggage from his past. Maybe it's the sting of childhood rejection, The weight of never feeling good enough for a parent or authority figure, or the lingering pain of a previous relationship gone wrong. Perhaps it's the pressure to live up to societal expectations of masculinity, always being strong, never showing weakness. Whatever the source, these unresolved conflicts create a fractured sense of self. They leave men feeling incomplete, inadequate, and disconnected, not only from others, but also from themselves. Now here's the critical insights. A good woman can provide love, support, and understanding, but she cannot heal what a man refuses to confront. No amount of external validation, no matter how genuine or heartfelt, can fill the void left by internal turmoil. And this is where the danger lies. When a man feels unworthy or broken on the inside, he may project those feelings outward. He starts to believe that something is missing in his life, even when everything appears. Cheating in this context becomes a misguided attempt to escape the pain of his own inner world. It's not really about the other person. It's about trying to outrun himself. He might think, if I find someone new, maybe I'll feel whole again. Or if someone else desires me, maybe I'll finally feel worthy. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Running away from your problems doesn't solve them. In fact, it makes them worse. The momentary high of infidelity quickly gives way to deeper shame, guilt, and emptiness because the root issue remains untouched. So how do we address this? First, men must have the courage to face their inner demons head on. This means acknowledging their pain instead of burying it under layers of distraction or denial. It means asking the hard question, why do I feel unworthy? What am I afraid of? What story am I telling myself about who I am? Therapy, journaling, meditation, or honest conversations with trusted friends can all be powerful tools in this journey of self-discovery. Second, men need to recognize that vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength. Opening up about their struggles, fears, and insecurities takes immense courage, especially in a culture that often equates masculinity with stoicism. Yet paradoxically, it's through vulnerability that true connection is forged. A good woman doesn't want a superhero. She wants a partner who trusts her enough to share his humanity. She wants to stand beside him as he heals, not watch him run away from himself. Finally, let's talk about responsibility. Healing unresolved inner conflict requires taking ownership of your narrative. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by how you choose to respond to it. Will you let old wounds dictate your actions, or will you rise above them? Will you continue to sabotage your happiness, or will you commit to becoming the man you were meant to be? The path to resolution isn't easy, but it's worth it. When a man does the work to heal his inner conflicts, something remarkable happens. He begins to see himself differently. He realizes that his value isn't tied to external validation. It comes from, and when he brings that newfound sense of wholeness into his relationship, everything changes. The restlessness fades, the need to escape disappears. What remains is a partnership rooted in authenticity, trust, and mutual growth. To every man listening, your past doesn't have to define your future. Face your pain, heal your wounds. Choose the woman who loves you for who you are, not the illusion you present to the world. Because at the end of the day, the greatest gift you can give her and yourself is the man you were always meant to become. Let's talk about novelty, a concept that lies at the heart of human nature and plays a significant role in why some men cheat, even when they're with a good woman. Human beings are wired to crave new experiences. It's part of our evolutionary biology. Seeking out novelty helped our ancestors survive by encouraging exploration, learning, and adaptation. But in modern relationships, this innate drive can sometimes lead us astray if we misunderstand its purpose or fail to channel it constructively. Novelty isn't inherently bad. It's essential for growth and excitement. In fact, it's one of the reasons early stages of romance feel so intoxicating. The thrill of getting to know someone new, the rush of discovery, the unpredictability of shared moments. These elements create a sense of aliveness that many people equate with love itself. However, over time, As relationships settle into routines, the initial spark of novelty fades. And while stability is crucial for long-term commitment, too much predictability without balance can leave some men feeling like something vital is missing. Here's where things get complicated. When a man feels bored or uninspired in his relationship, he may mistakenly attribute those feelings to his partner rather than recognizing them as a natural phase of any enduring bond. Instead of working to reignite passion within the relationship, he might look outside of it, believing that someone new will bring back the excitement he craves. This is what I call the misplaced desire for novelty. The belief that external sources can provide what only internal effort and creativity can achieve. But here's the harsh reality. In chasing novelty through infidelity doesn't solve the problem. It merely postpones it. The temporary high of pursuing someone new quickly wears off, leaving behind guilt, regret, and often deeper dissatisfaction. Why? Because the underlying issue wasn't the lack of novelty itself. It was the failure to nurture curiosity, playfulness, and adventure within the existing relationship. Cheating becomes a band-aid solution to a much deeper one, the loss of intentional connection. So how do we address this misplaced desire for novelty? First, men must understand that novelty doesn't have to mean someone new. It can mean something new. Relationships thrive when both partners actively seek ways to keep things fresh and engaged. This could involve trying new activities together, traveling to unfamiliar places, exploring different forms of intimacy, or simply having deeper, more meaningful conversations. The key is to approach your relationship with the same sense of wonder and curiosity that drew you together in the first place. Second, men need to take responsibility for their own emotional experience. A relationship is a partnership, not a passive arrangement where one person is expected to endlessly entertain the other. If you're feeling stagnant, ask yourself, what am I doing to contribute to the dynamic between us? Am I bringing energy, enthusiasm, and initiative into this relationship? Or am I waiting for my partner to carry all the weight? True fulfillment comes from co-creating experiences, not consuming them. Third, let's challenge the myth that long-term relationships are doomed to monotony. Yes, the honeymoon phase eventually ends. That's inevitable. But what replaces it can be far richer and more rewarding if both partners are willing to put in the work. Deep love isn't built on constant fireworks. It's built on trust, vulnerability, and shared growth. Those qualities don't eliminate novelty. They redefine it. Novelty becomes less about chasing fleeting thrills and more about discovering new layers of each other as you evolve together over time. Now let's talk about discipline versus distraction. One of the biggest traps men fall into is confusing novelty with escape. When life feels overwhelming or monotonous, it's tempting to seek relief in something or someone. But true strength lies in staying committed to the challenges of building something real. Discipline is choosing to invest in your relationship even when it requires effort. Distraction is running away because the effort feels too. Which path will you choose? Finally, let's not forget the power of gratitude. Gratitude transforms the way we perceive our relationships. When you focus on appreciating what you have instead of obsessing over what you lack, you shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Look at your partner with fresh eyes. Remember why you fell in love with her in the first place. Celebrate the little things she does that make your life better. Gratitude breeds contentment, and contentment reduces the urge to seek fulfillment elsewhere. Don't confuse novelty with happiness. Happiness isn't found in endless pursuit. It's found in depth, commitment, and the courage to build something lasting. Your good woman deserves a man who sees her as an adventure, not a routine. She deserves someone who chooses to grow with her, explore with her, and create a life filled with meaning and joy. So rise to the occasion, be the man who brings novelty into your relationship. Not by looking outside, but by cultivating it from within. Because when you do, you'll discover that the greatest adventures aren't the ones you chase alone. They're the ones you share with the person who truly matters. Let's turn our attention to one of the most profound yet overlooked factors that can lead a man to cheat even when he has a good woman by his side: the lack of emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy isn't just about physical closeness or shared activities. It's about feeling truly seen, heard, and understood. It's the deep bond that allows two people to connect on a soul level, where masks come off, vulnerabilities are shared, and authenticity reigns supreme. And here's the hard truth: without emotional intimacy, even the strongest relationships can feel hollow. Now, let's be clear. Emotional intimacy is not something that happens automatically. It requires effort, vulnerability, and mutual trust from both partners. But for many men, opening up emotionally is easier said than done. Society often teaches men to suppress their feelings, to equate vulnerability with weakness, and to prioritize stoicism over authenticity. As a result, some men grow up believing that they must have it all together, that showing emotion makes them less of a man. This conditioning creates a barrier between them and their partners, leaving them feeling isolated even in the presence of love. Here's the critical insights. A good woman may offer affection, care, and loyalty, but if a man cannot reciprocate by sharing his inner world, the relationship will inevitably suffer. Emotional intimacy is a two-way street. If one partner is pouring her heart out while the other remains closed off, the imbalance creates distance. Over time, this emotional disconnection can manifest as dissatisfaction. The man might start to feel like something is missing, not because his partner isn't enough, but because he hasn't allowed himself to fully engage in the relationship. And here's where things take a dangerous turn. When a man feels emotionally disconnected, he may unconsciously seek connection elsewhere. He might convince himself that someone new will understand him better, that a different partner will somehow fix the loneliness. But here's the brutal reality. A cheating doesn't solve the problem of emotional disconnection. It compounds it. The momentary illusion of being understood by someone else quickly gives way to deeper isolation, guilt, and regret. Why? Because the root issue wasn't the lack of a perfect partner. It was the inability to foster true emotional intimacy in the first place. So how do we address this lack of emotional intimacy? First, men must recognize that vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. Opening up about your fears, insecurities, and desires takes immense courage, especially in a culture that often discourages men from doing so. Yet, paradoxically, it's through vulnerability that true connection is forged. A good woman doesn't want a superhero. She wants a partner who trusts her enough to share his humanity. She wants to stand beside you in your struggles, not watch you hide behind walls of silence. Second, men need to actively work on building emotional intimacy in their relationships. This means prioritizing communication. Not just surface-level conversations about logistics or daily routines, but deep, meaningful dialogues about hopes, dreams, fears, and frustrations. When was the last time I truly listened in my partner without distractions? When was the last time I shared something personal that made me feel exposed? Emotional intimacy grows when both partners make space for these kinds of exchanges. Third, let's talk about self-awareness. Many men struggle with emotional intimacy because they don't fully understand their own emotions. They've spent so much time suppressing their feelings that they no longer know how to identify or articulate them. This is where introspection becomes essential. Take the time to reflect on your emotional landscape. What are you feeling right now? Why are you feeling it? How does it affect your behavior and decisions? Understanding yourself is the first step toward connecting authentically with someone else. Fourth, let's challenge the myth that emotional intimacy is optional in relationships. Some men believe that as long as they provide financially or fulfill basic responsibilities, their job is done. But love isn't transactional. It's relational. A relationship built solely on practicality or duty lacks the depth and richness that emotional intimacy provides. True partnership requires more than coexisting. It requires co-creating a safe space where both individuals can thrive emotionally. Finally, let's acknowledge the transformative power of emotional intimacy. When a man commits to fostering this kind of connection with his partner, everything changes. The loneliness dissipates, the need to escape disappears. What remains is a bond rooted in trust, understanding, and unconditional support. Emotional intimacy doesn't just strengthen relationships. It enriches every aspect of life. It gives men the confidence to face challenges, the resilience to overcome setbacks, and the joy of knowing they're loved for who they truly are. To every man listening, your partner chose you not because she wanted a facade, but because she believed in the person beneath the surface. Don't rob her or yourself of the opportunity to experience that. Choose to show up emotionally. Choose to break down the walls that keep you apart. Choose to build a relationship where both of you can be fully alive, fully present, and fully loved. Because at the end of the day, the greatest gift you can give your partner and yourself is the courage to connect on the deepest level possible. Let's talk about one of the most insidious forces that can drive a man to cheat even when he has a good woman in his life. Ego and the relentless need for external validation. The ego is a tricky beast. It thrives on approval, admiration, and affirmation from others. For many men, their sense of self-worth becomes dangerously tied to how they're perceived by the outside world. And when this need for validation goes unmet, or worse, when it becomes insatiable, it can lead them down a destructive path, seeking fulfillment in all the wrong places. At its core, the ego is fragile. It craves constant reassurance that we are desirable, successful, and valued. In relationships, this manifests as a desire to be admired not just by our partner, but by others as well. A good woman may offer love, loyalty, and appreciation. But if a man's ego demands more, if he equates his worth with how many people desire him, he may begin to feel restless. He might start questioning whether he's enough or whether he's missing out on something greater. This mindset sets the stage for infidelity as he seeks external validation to prop up his shaky sense of self. Cheating driven by ego isn't really about the other person. It's about feeding an inner void. It's about proving something to himself, even if he doesn't fully understand what that is. He might tell himself, if someone else wants me, then I must still have value. Or if I can attract someone new, it means I'm not losing my edge. But here's the cruel irony. No amount of external validation can ever fill the hole left by a fragile ego. The momentary high of being desired by someone else quickly fades, leaving behind guilt, shame, and emptiness. Why? Because true confidence comes from within, not from the fleeting approval of others. So how do we address this toxic interplay between ego and validation? First, men must confront the uncomfortable reality that their worth is not determined by external factors. Your value as a human being is intrinsic. It doesn't rise or fall based on who desires you or how many people admire you. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Not to strangers, not to acquaintances, and certainly not to yourself. True strength lies in recognizing your inherent dignity and refusing to let your ego dictate your actions. Second, men need to cultivate self-awareness around their motivations. Ask yourself, why do I crave validation? What am I trying to prove? And to whom? Often, the need for external approval stems from unresolved insecurities or past experiences where love and acceptance felt conditional. By understanding the root cause of these feelings, you can begin to dismantle the unhealthy patterns they create. Therapy, journaling, or honest reflection can help you uncover the answers you've been avoiding. Third, let's challenge the myth that desirability equals success. Society often glorifies the idea of being wanted by multiple people, equating it with masculinity, power, or status. But chasing after this illusion only leads to dissatisfaction. Real success isn't measured by how many people want you. It's measured by the depth and quality of the connections you nurture. A good woman who loves you for who you are is worth infinitely more than countless superficial admirers who see only what you project outwardly. Fourth, men must learn to take pride in their character rather than their conquest. Building integrity, humility, and emotional maturity takes far more courage than seeking temporary validation through infidelity. When you prioritize becoming a better man, someone who respects himself and honors his commitments, you naturally attract respect from others. And more importantly, you earn the trust and admiration of the person who matters most, your partner. Finally, let's talk about the transformative power of gratitude in perspective. Instead of focusing on what you lack or what you think you deserve, shift your attention to what you already have. Appreciate the woman who chose to stand by you, who sees your flaws and loves you anyway. Celebrate the moments of joy, laughter, and connection you share together. Gratitude breeds contentment, and contentment silences the ego's incessant demands for more. Don't let your ego sabotage the greatest gift you could ever receive, a partner who truly loves you. Stop chasing validation from sources that don't matter and start valuing the relationship that does. Choose to build confidence from within, not from without. Choose to honor the woman who believes in you, even when you doubt yourself. Because at the end of the day, the measure of a man isn't how many people want him. It's how deeply he commits to loving and respecting the one who already does. So here's the truth. Every man has the power to rise above these pitfalls. It starts with courage, the courage to face your inner demons, to communicate openly, and to commit fully to the person who chose you, despite your imperfections. A good woman deserves loyalty, respect, and effort. Not perfection, but dedication. Let this be a call to action for every man watching. Step up. Be better. Build something real. Because when you choose integrity over temptation, you don't just save your relationship, you save yourself.